Soo Ho. Oh, I apologize. In this world, his name is Lloyd Frontera, and he is the most simple and ordinary construction engineer. And by his side is his faithful companion Gabriel. Their story is sure to change the world. But first, there's a lot of money to be made. Without expecting it, Soo Ho woke up in a world unknown to him, where he was greeted by the system. This is the so-called God of the local world, the binding essence of both worlds. Soo Ho once read a novel in which the main character was Gabriel. He couldn't understand how he ended up here. Then a man called out to him, calling him Lloyd Frontera. Lloyd realized who stood before him and noticed that Gabriel was an exact copy of himself from the novel. Gabriel Azrahan is the protagonist of the novel. As the story progresses, he becomes known throughout the continent as a great swordsman. But he began his journey as an ordinary knight guarding Baron Frontera and the name of the Baron's eldest son. Wait, what? Soo Ho has taken over the body of the Baron's eldest son, and as we know, Lloyd Frontera was an asshole and a drunk. Gabriel's glad Lloyd realizes his backwardness. Gabriel revealed that Lloyd had been drinking for the last day and apparently fainted. The Baron was worried and sent Gabriel to find his son. Lloyd noticed that the floor was very cold. I wish I had a heater now. He knew all about the novel and had recently read the last page of it, so he knew all about Lloyd Frontera's fate. In the beginning, the Baron and his wife are swindled by crooks and stripped of everything, including their estate. This causes them to commit suicide. Lloyd lost his home and became a vagrant, drinking to exhaustion every day. Suddenly he threw up and died. The end. Lloyd didn't realize what kind of supreme being had granted his wish and put him in this body. Baron Frontera, Lloyd's beloved mother, is worried and asks her son to apologize to the innkeeper for breaking his dishes. So said Lloyd. Marvea and Gabrielle are very much surprised by this. I wonder why. The villagers hate Lloyd because after every drunken party there are violent pogroms. Gabrielle, at the Baron's request, follows Lloyd to protect the villagers, just in case. Lloyd thought about how good it would be to clear his name and settle his family debt, and get rich, of course. After opening the interface of the system, he found two skills. The first, the skill Beggar, is a passive skill that makes others nervous, and the second skill is called Alki, Gabriel reminded that the inn was on their left and should apologize. Lloyd wanted to do just that. Gabriel noticed that the gentleman's demeanor had changed and he seemed to be a different person. I apologize, Lloyd said, but the innkeeper was on alert, amused. I'm sorry. The innkeeper said he didn't have to apologize. Lloyd wanted his apology to be accepted, but Gabriel reminded him that if he made amends he would be able to. Frontera remembered the family debt and wondered how to pay it off. He remembered that it was pretty cold in the inn, and it would be hard for people to survive in the cold until they came up with a floor heating system. Bingo, bang, bang, and an idea came up. If you make a floor heating system, it will sell. Fool. Lloyd never dreamed of it, but Soo Ho can do it. He's a construction engineer. He tried to build a house by himself in the army and worked day and night on construction sites, which is how he'll pay off his family's debts. Back to the inn, said Lloyd. We have to get the first order. Then suddenly there was a system and a hint that one could save RP points from interacting with the people around him. RP, so-called experience points, which you can get by interacting with people and increasing your reputation in front of them. Gabriel, on the other hand, has an interest level of 30. I think it's deserved. Gabriel. You're so cool, said Lloyd, but interest is down 1 point. Funny, hehehe. First order, first money. Lloyd thought, but the tractor doesn't trust you. Lloyd went on a surprise attack, reminding the innkeeper that they would be seeing a lot of each other. Maybe he shouldn't break bro. Oh, Lloyd is acting. and the first contract is up." Gabriel's tension rose, but Lloyd reminded him of the experience and statistics that were long in the past, which meant the result would make them smile, and that smile would be the foundation of his earnings. Things progressed, and Lloyd had built a house from scratch in a week, which made Gabriel marvel at his labor. Lloyd realized his body was weak. Gabriel set aside his prejudices and decided to help his master. "That's sweet, my God. For a master swordsman, chopping a few wood is no problem." "You're the best," Lloyd thought. "Heh." And without thanking me, he asked me to help him dig. "That's rough." "Don't forget to work together," said Lloyd. Digging and digging and digging and digging and digging, and after a while, the construction was complete, and not without its own logo. The innkeeper and his mom are pleasantly surprised. They couldn't imagine what it's like when the floor is so warm. People of this time can only wonder because the power of underfloor heating is like magic. The innkeeper's gratitude and smile was what Lloyd wanted, and it didn't go unnoticed by Gabriel. How could it? His face and manner of speech had changed since this morning. He had worked all day, and he had kept his promise. "It can't be Lloyd, but I can see how happy they are." Long awaited and nice notice, improved relations with Xavier and earned 36 RP points. But the main goal was to build a house to advertise. After all, that's the only way to make yourself known. But the residents still don't trust him. Lloyd reminds them that they'll be seeing a lot of each other, so maybe they should trust each other, huh? And then his father showed up, Baron Frontera, and asked him what he was doing here. There was one thought in Lloyd's mind. I've tried so hard to avoid him. What if he forbids me to build? Arcos listened to Lloyd on the subject of building, and that he had done the innkeeper's bidding, that was all. But the Baron reminded him that the inhabitants were very important, and he shouldn't cheat them. Lloyd confidently agreed with the Baron. "I think I'll be going," Lloyd said. Arcos, at the end of the dialogue, reminded him that if he was doing it because of his family's situation, he shouldn't worry. He could handle it himself. But the eldest son would not listen, for he had already heard those words, the words of his dear father, which turned out to be lies. "Don't give up. I will try too." These were the words he wanted to say to his father once, but he didn't have the time. Two moneylenders, Mitroff and Silo, met in the corridor. Without saying hello, they went straight to the Baron. "When will you pay back your debt, eh? It's been 5 days," said the moneylender. In a rude manner, they continued to demand their debt, but Lloyd is not what he used to be and saw this as a great opportunity. Minutes earlier. Where to put the points he got, thought Lloyd. The system suggested that RP points could be spent on learning new abilities. Suddenly, there was an upgrade circle visible only to him. Knowledge of soil mechanics, hydrology, building mechanics, water supply system, steel and concrete structure design, higher level of design. "And you happen to be smart," the system said. Lloyd gave the last points to the surveying skill. Suddenly he realized he had Apple Vision, but for free. Even the ability to draw on air. "Oh, I wish I could summon technology," thought Lloyd. "Ah, well, there's something for summoning," said the system. "By spending RP, you can summon a random phantom. Getting a phantom is the perfect opportunity to make your job easier." "And if that's what I'm thinking," Lloyd piped up, "then RP points should be gained, and that means getting the interest of the main characters. The moneylender is unhappy about not paying his debt and has offered to sell his wife and children to the Baron. Well, who do we have here?" "The Baron's eldest son, that ignoramus," said the moneylender. But Lloyd is not so foolish, and reminded them of the laws which state that, without an invitation to their residence, such action on their part is an intrusion. But the loan sharks panicked and shouted that there was no such law. Lloyd then suggested that they check together to see if there was a law. "Xavier!" he shouted. Xavier entered the room. and Lloyd immediately ordered the hands of the intruders to be chopped off. They were frightened and threatened to sue Lloyd, but he was sure of his word and the law, so he offered to see who the court would believe. As soon as Gabriel drew his sword, the moneylenders immediately fled, slamming the door shut. The Baron was frightened and asked why he had done so, but Lloyd erased all doubts and gave the Baron a sum equal to this month's interest. Arcos doubted the money, not that his own son had demanded money from the villagers. But Gabriel kept him from doubts and told him that he was monitoring the fulfillment of contracts on Lloyd's part. Gabriel wondered how Lloyd knew about such a law, but he said he'd just heard it somewhere. Although he learned of this law from Gabriel himself in the novel, after the death of the Baron and his wife, when the moneylenders wanted to dig up the bodies and sell them. Then Gabriel said, "The Basic Law of the Kingdom, Chapter 3. Article 6. All aristocracy are subjects of the king and have the right to defend their interests." Saying these words, he slit their necks, and in court he was completely acquitted. How good it is that I know the contents of the novel, thought Lloyd, by notifying the system of the Baron's increased interest. 61 RP points. "Phantom, wait for me," said Lloyd. Looking around, Lloyd began summoning the mysterious phantom. Amazing patterns appeared in the sky, and these so small, and out of a small portal jumped a small, is that a hamster? That doesn't make any sense, Lloyd thought. "No, I can do a lot of things," apparently said the mouse. Spitting out a small roll of paper, Lloyd read this user manual. "The little hamster's name is Podong. Take loving care of him. Feed magic seeds. They can change his mood. Red seed makes Podong huge for 12 hours. Blue seed does cause the opposite effect to make him shrink again." Lloyd decided to test the effect of the red seed. "Jesus, he's huge, at least 10 meters. Digging skill level 1, that's a living tractor. Ground reinforcement skill, what a paver. Cheek puffing, level 1. That's great," Lloyd thought. "But how do you use it? Because people might think something's wrong. But it's nice to be able to just pick up a book and pretend to be a summoner." The problem of manpower remained to be solved. Gathering the Baron's entire army of 30 men, Lloyd reminded them that the army was doing its job, so they should do a little work. He showed them the land he had dug up over the last night, but, actually, Podong dug it up in 30 minutes. Hehehe. "We will restore the grandeur of the estate," Lloyd said. But the soldiers didn't particularly like it. This was the reaction he expected from them. And yet, one of the problems called out to him. It was Senior Knight Newman. There were 3 of them in total. Bayer, who reports to Newman and Xavier, the main character of the novel. And only Bayer and Xavier were loyal to the Baron, and Newman was the first to betray him. Neumann was unhappy with Lloyd's use of the knights, but Lloyd doesn't care, because the Baron allowed him, and therefore. "You're about to get screwed," Lloyd said. "Ah, just look at him. If he was playing an online game, he would bomb within 1 minute. So I'll try," thought Lloyd, picking up some earth and throwing it at Newman. "What's wrong with Uncle's face? Do you want to fight?" Lloyd asked. "Well, let's have a duel," Lloyd said confidently. "Ah, what a face!" Xavier asks if he is sure of his victory, to which he replies that, of course not, because he is not a knight like Newman, but an ordinary lazy man. "Can you think at all?" Lloyd asks. Xavier doesn't know how to feel about what he did and wants to cut him down. Lloyd orders him to teach him how to fight. "No," said Xavier. Lloyd doesn't understand the reason for his refusal, but Xavier explains that he's like a sack that's dangerous to trust with a gun. In return, Lloyd promises to cure his insomnia. Of course he knows about it, because in the novel, Xavier became master of the sword, and that's the cause of his problem. Xavier agrees, but he's sure it won't work, no matter what methods he uses. But Lloyd knows that Xavier falls asleep just when he's learning magic. "Run 50 laps," Xavier said. Lloyd silently started running, which surprised the other. "Did you think I was going to whine?" "Huh," Lloyd asked. "Did you think I'd complain and you'd think I was weak?" "Huh. That's a good one." But Lloyd did have a hard time, but not compared to his life in Korea. Every day is torture in the hope of change. Compared to that pain and despair, it's nothing. "If you are so sincere, then I will teach you my technique," Xavier thought to himself. The Baron didn't understand Lloyd's behavior and was a bit disappointed and asked Newman not to be too harsh. He agreed, but what he really wanted to do was kill the young gentleman, then kill the Baron and pass the whole thing off as a suicide. A month has passed, and Lloyd is more ready to win than ever. "Is that a shovel?" You can hear it from the bleachers, but it's iron and made by a blacksmith. The Baron is a little shocked, but Xavier recalls all his efforts and realizes that he's definitely not joking. "So, let the duel begin," Baron shouts. Punch and block. Lloyd does a good job of blocking all the attacks. Xavier is surprised, and so is everyone watching. But it's easy for Lloyd. He was once trained to do it in the army. Not only does the shovel act as a block and easily cut off roots, but it can also jump like a rabbit, ah-ha-ha-ha-ha. "The first weapon I'll use to beat you with is the shovel. The second weapon is the swordsmanship Xavier taught me. And the third is the skill of complete synchronization between me and the shovel, which I was able to buy with the points I got for respecting my ancestors and Xavier." Newman realized the seriousness of it and filled his entire body with mana, a so-called heart of mana. This attack is definitely unstoppable, everyone thought. "And this is the fourth skill I've prepared for you," said Lloyd. "The mana skill that made Xavier the strongest man in the novel. Azrahan core technique. Taking Newman's magic, he weakened and missed a shovel strike. Oh, the tooth flew. The decisive blow and victory goes to Lloyd. But Lloyd remembers everything Newman did and decides to punish him with a couple more punches. The crowds are screaming and don't understand what's wrong with the gentleman, but Xavier sees the calm expression on Lloyd's face, as if he's already seen it all coming, or not seen it all coming, but something is definitely wrong with him. 15 days ago. "Now teach me the Azrahan mind techniques," said Lloyd. Xavier doesn't understand how he knows about his personal technique, but Lloyd says Xavier was just talking in her sleep. Hey. Xavier says it's not complete, but Lloyd tells him that when Xavier collects his magic, it bounces off his mana heart, so it's worth trying to collect it separately. You have to make it orbit around the mana heart, like a satellite. And so he completed his technique, allowing more contours to be created around the mana heart. "I ordered you to stop," the Baron shouted. "And don't you dare ruin Newman's reputation," he said. But Lloyd refuted his words by asking him to look under the table and read the letters that were addressed to Newman from the bandits. It was a good thing Podong had taken them quickly. Lloyd knew of the Baron's kindness, so he offered two options: either to set the rats on him or to downgrade him to minimum status and hope for redemption. Newman is grateful for the mercy, but Lloyd realizes that if you give the criminal a second chance, the crime is bound to repeat itself. "Therefore you will never be forgiven," said Lloyd. Taking a seed and feeding it to the Podong, it quickly grew in size and crushed Newman a little. "Kika. Just a little bit. He seems to be alive. Hehehe." "Banish the traitor," said Lloyd confidently. "That's the only way to solve the problem.